What's the good word, y'all? DKB here. So we have to talk about one of my favorite guys coming out of nowhere and at the quarterback position of all places. I'm talking about quarterback Chris Streveler. The guy's essentially kind of jumped onto the radar out of nowhere, right? I did the original kind of background history on him when we signed him, a couple stints with Arizona Cardinals, Miami Dolphins. I think he was with the Raiders as well as one point. But for our intents and purposes, the man has been absolutely crushing it during the preseason. The big hype news last week was that LaFleur told us prior to the Zach Wilson injury, Chris Streveler hasn't even gotten any real work in during the preseason. So for him to go into that game and perform the way that he did, there was a lot to take from it. For one, he was efficient, he was effective. The thing that I love a lot that's going to go unspoken as well is the fact that he's another mobile quarterback, not necessarily run first, but he can do a lot of the same things Zach Wilson can do. So even comparing him to Joe Flacco, we're going to be able to kind of keep the same playbook and not necessarily have to tailor anything to him if he was to be our primary backup and something happened to Zach Wilson, which is what I love as a contingency plan. Two, this is his second comeback victory in a row. And granted, it's preseason. He's playing up against, essentially practice squad players, guys that'll be packing shopping bags, third string, maybe some second string guys. But nonetheless, he's out here getting victories from, 14 plus deficits. And when you compare him side by side between Mike White, he definitely looks like the better quarterback off top. So, to date, he's essentially gone 14 of 20. He has something like 181 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and I think he's added about 60 or so yards via rushing. So the guy's been brilliant. I seen a stat that said something like the Jets have had 7 or so comebacks from 14 or more points in the preseason, dating back to the last 20 or 50 years, something like that. Chris Streveler has 2 of those 7 comeback victories. So I think a huge piece of this as well is that you can feel an immediate difference when he comes in at quarterback. He has this uncanny ability, it feels like, and it's rare that you see it, to elevate the players around him instead of necessarily having to depend on the talent that he has available to them, kind of like I'm getting the sense of from Mike White. So he's a guy I'm extremely excited for. I really am hoping that he can push and make a strong push for us to flip Mike White for a pick or two and for him to potentially become the primary backup and go into the season with him, because we are starting to lose potential leverage in any kind of conversations with Mike White continuing to trend downward. So irregardless, if we can still come out with a 5th round pick at least, which is what he would have been tendered for anyways, it's a plus for us, a guy that we ultimately end up expecting to cut anyways. Hopefully people buy into that huge game that he had from the Bengals, which again, I still don't think it was a one-off situation by any means, but the Bengals obviously didn't truly prepare for him, and he generously took what the defense gave him, which was quite a bit. So there's still a lot to work with him, but I think Chris Streveler gives us a much stronger starting point and a much more effective plan if we ever had to turn to our backup, assuming we move on from Joe Flacco after this season, and he's not expected to necessarily start either. And worst case scenario, he builds up his value to where a team thinks that maybe he could be a starter as well, and again, we end up looking to flip him for picks as well in the future. So it's a great situation for us to be in. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. Let me know how you feel about Chris Streveler. The guy's A+ in my book, but I look forward to the comments, and I'll catch you guys again. Peace.